It is not within the living memory of a great majority of the British population that there has been a change in monarch. And so questions arise and explanations need to be given. There are still a great many questions about this transitional period and other things that it may impact. For now, I have brought you as much information as we currently know. The United Kingdom and much of the wider world were shocked this week by the news of the death of Queen Elizabeth II at the age of 96. The Queen, who had recently celebrated her Platinum Jubilee earlier this year, which represents 70 years on the British throne, passed away surrounded by members of her family at Balmoral Castle. Principally, this news has been met with shock and sadness and strong reactions on all sides, all of which are completely legitimate. Amongst this, there has also been a lot of uncertainty and confusion about what this is going to mean for the immediate future of the country, and various logistical questions have arisen. Charles, the Prince of Wales, will succeed his late mother to become King Charles III, and in the interim, there will be a national period of mourning, with a state funeral having recently been announced for Monday, the 19th of September. If you have not met me before, my name is Mickey Joe. I am an independent theatre reviewer and a content creator based here in the UK, and this video is intended to let people know how this is going to be immediately affecting the theatre industry during this period of mourning and over the state funeral. I do not make this video with the suggestion that this is in any way a high national priority right now, but given that there has already been so much uncertainty for the theatre industry with the many months of closure due to the COVID-19 pandemic, I thought it best to elucidate on this as much as I can to help theatregoers and potential theatregoers be aware of what their options are during this time. Also in this video, I will not be sharing my own opinions on the legacy and the death of Queen Elizabeth II, and I will explain a little as to why that is. I believe that the late Queen is deserving of respect, having devoted so much of her life to service towards this country, as a mother, as a grandmother, as a great-grandmother. Equally deserving of respect are the living descendants and victims of colonial oppression worldwide. The history of colonialism leaves the monarchy with a complicated legacy, and for much of the last century, Queen Elizabeth II has served as a figurehead of that legacy, though her involvement in it may not have been completely active. I am also hugely conscious of the fact that the UK right now is navigating a grueling cost of living crisis, and we are approaching a winter where the impact of economic uncertainty on various households is going to cause loss of life, and this is uncomfortably juxtaposed by an upcoming lavish state funeral. So for these reasons, I am left with a complicated emotional response that I'm not going to articulate any further. What I do want to talk about is what is going to be happening to London and the UK's theatres during the next few weeks. So when the news of the Queen's death first emerged, there was a lot of uncertainty as to whether theatres would once again be forced to close. For a lot of producers, this would be a nightmare scenario. Already so much money has been lost during the COVID-19 pandemic due to the forced closure of all of the UK's theatres. Producers have repeatedly expressed that they are still in a financially precarious position, and we are just now finding about a great many shows that ought to be financially viable and ought to be long-running popular shows in the West End being forced to close due to this financial uncertainty. In fact, it's my opinion we are just beginning to see the impact of dwindling audience numbers. If it hopes to survive, the last thing the industry needs right now is another period of closure, which is why I am happy to report that theatres will not be forced to close during this time, nor have they closed since the news was first announced. It is the wishes of the royal household that theatres remain open, and critically, that performances take place as scripted. The exception to this may be any performances that take place on Monday the 19th of September, which has already been announced as a bank holiday and the date of the state funeral for Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. It has not yet been announced whether theatres will close on this date. However, there are some that have already taken the initiative. The Royal Shakespeare Company in Stratford-upon-Avon have announced that they will not be performing on this date. The Ambassador Theatre Group have also sent an email to ticket holders advising that performances outside of that date definitely won't be cancelled, but they have not yet confirmed what is happening on the 19th. If anyone watching this video has a ticket booking for Monday the 19th of September that they would like to query, my advice, as always, is to contact your point of sale directly. Rather than closing as a mark of respect to Queen Elizabeth II, theatres have announced that they will dim their lights for 2 minutes at 7 o'clock, and many have also been observing moments of silence at the beginning of the shows. I've already witnessed this twice at the Turbine Theatre and then again at the Dominion Theatre over the weekend. A live theatre audience is a fascinating communal space, and it's a very emotionally striking moment to experience that collective mark of grief and respect. Should theatres decide to remain open on the 19th of September, there are logistical issues they may encounter. For London, this may be pending road closures and the abilities of audience members to actually get to those theatres, especially surrounding the areas where the funeral will be taking place and potentially Buckingham Palace. So looking at Victoria and Westminster, this is very likely to affect theatres like the Victoria Palace, the Apollo Victoria, and the other palace. On a less immediate note, given the impending reign of King Charles III, which incidentally is also a play written by Mike Bartlett that appeared at the Almeida and the West End a few years ago, Her Majesty's Theatre in the West End, where the Phantom of the Opera currently plays, will be changing its name to His Majesty's Theatre. This has been met with some backlash. People would like to see it kept as a mark of respect, as a tribute to the Queen. Now, previously there was also the Queen's Theatre in the West End. That has since been renamed to the Sondheim, so won't be affected by this. There are in fact a handful of theatres in the West End named after members of the royal family. There is the Prince Edward, the Prince of Wales, and the Duke of York. The impact of Queen Victoria and Albert Prince Consort on London geography and buildings and history is also hugely apparent. You have the Apollo Victoria and the Victoria Palace. You have the Old Vic and the Young Vic. There is also the Queen Elizabeth Hall as part of the South Bank Centre. That will be keeping its name. That will not be affected by this. But I do understand the change from Her Majesty's Theatre to His Majesty's Theatre. This has happened before in the past. This is not a brand new decision. And there have been theatres around the country that have kept their names in spite of the reigning monarch. We have had multiple King's theatres across the country. There is one in Portsmouth. There is another in Scotland. Equally, there is the Queen's Theatre in Hornchurch that will continue to be the Queen's Theatre. The reason why all of this merits explanation is because, as British people, certainly in my lifetime and in the lifetime of many others, the reign of Queen Elizabeth II is all we have known. 70 years on the throne represents an awful lot of history. It is not within the living memory of a great majority of the British population that there has been a change in monarch. And so questions arise and explanations need to be given. There are still a great many questions about this transitional period and other things that it may impact. For now, I have brought you as much information as we currently know. Looking to specific shows currently playing in the West End, I'm not given to understand that there are many references to Queen Elizabeth II that would need to be handled carefully. There is, however, an upcoming revival of the play Handbagged, which is due to open this week at the Kiln Theatre. The play chronicles Queen Elizabeth II's complicated relationship with one of the 15 prime ministers who served during her reign, Margaret Thatcher. I'm not familiar with this play. I haven't had the chance to see it before. I have seen The Audience, which portrays a very heartwarming and supportive and endearing picture of Queen Elizabeth during her service. But my inclination with this revival of Handbagged, that I believe is still planning to go ahead and open this week, is that as long as it is portraying the Queen in a positive and uplifting and celebratory light, then it will do very well, and it has inadvertently been very well timed. A celebration of her life will be hugely welcomed right now by a great many people, and any criticism of her is likely to be considered in poor taste. Outside of this, the only other part of a show that has proved newsworthy this week is when a very emotional announcement of the Queen's death on Thursday at Wicked was immediately followed by the slightly unfortunate opening lines of the show. You probably know what those are without me telling you, or you can go and look them up. Needless to say, it was an awkward moment in the theatre, I am told, by people who were there. And the reason I address this at all is because there was an impact on some shows when Margaret Thatcher died. Billy Elliot was still playing in the West End and has a song that critiques Margaret Thatcher very heavily, and that had to be adjusted in the days of performances following her death. Queen Elizabeth II, however, has never come under the same level of artistic scrutiny in major theatrical productions. Looking to the future and knowing the sensibility of commercial theatre producers, I would be completely unsurprised if we saw a major revival of The Audience, Peter Morgan's play about the Queen that subsequently became The Crown on Netflix. The play originally premiered with Dame Helen Mirren. Kristen Scott Thomas later played the same role. It's played on Broadway. It was broadcast to the nation via National Theatre Live, and it has been revived regionally. I've seen multiple productions. It's a beautiful play that depicts the Queen's unflinching duty to her country, as well as her persisting humanity. King Charles III by Mike Bartlett, however, may be doomed never to be revived because we're now living through the period of history which it predicted. But that is everything we know so far. News will continue to emerge. Keep an eye on social media and whatever theatrical news outlets you prefer to keep abreast of that. I will do my best to update the comments section on this video if there are any major developments. Equally, if anyone becomes aware of any other ways that the Queen's death impacts the theatre industry and any immediate upcoming productions, please do pop that in the comments section as well, so that this can serve as a hub of information during this time. Thank you for watching this video. I hope that you found it informative and that it will be of use.